Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back for another great podcast on Alabama football. Come off a victory of the Alabama versus New Mexico State. Great victory by the Tide on 59-3. Today in our first segment, we're going to review the game against New Mexico State. In our second segment, we're going to take a look at our players of the game. And then our third and final segment, we'll preview the upcoming game against the Arkansas Razorbacks.
You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com.
Well, we're back to the first segment here on the DC Capstone Report. Welcome back. We're glad you've joined us again. Lance and I, each week, we're so excited to see the number of people that are jumping on and listening to our podcast and going to the websites. Just want to encourage you to always like our page on Facebook. If you do that, our DC Capstone Report page. You can follow me on Twitter at DavidCott50. And also you can go and look at Lance's other sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com for some great Alabama content. Well, here in the first segment, we'll review the game against New Mexico State, and what a game it was. The New Mexico State Aggies got out to a 3-0 lead. But after that, it was all Alabama, pouring on 14 points in the first quarter and opened the floodgates with a 35-point output in the second quarter to lead at halftime by a big margin, then coasted in the second half, played a lot of good players, and ended up with a score of 59-3. One of the biggest things I want to point out in this game, people say, well, why do you play a team like New Mexico State? Well, you play that game late in the year, you schedule it correctly. Instead of playing a cupcake early in the year in September like some of the teams do, you schedule it late in the year. You play your best competition early in the year to get ready for your schedule, and you have a little game in between some of your tougher games, and that's why you schedule New Mexico State here at home between the LSU and the Arkansas game. Both of those games and the Auburn game at the end of the year are all tough games to play, always a rugged contest. And scheduling your opponent like New Mexico State between those games is a good, important thing to do, because you get to rest some players, you get to see some players play that hadn't got to play, and you get to really work on some fundamentals. And I think one of the good things that happened in this game is our fundamentally was very sound on defense. You know, you got to go out there and play, but you got to go out there and play again, even though you're playing a lesser opponent, so to speak, a team that has a 1-9 record. You still got to go out there and play against another team, and you got to make sure that you adjust and do the things you need to do soundly and fundamentally. And we did that on defense. Well, you see other teams that were playing weaker opponents. For example, Florida had a hands full with Samford University in a shootout. And so there were other teams like Texas that got beat by Kansas. So you're playing against an opponent, and you're not just out there playing a scrimmage or playing against air. So it was great to see our defense put up some good numbers in this game. We held New Mexico State to a total of 138 yards. Of that, 129 yards passing and only 9 yards rushing. So I think it was a big accomplishment by our defense. Our defense has gotten better and better each week, and it's a great thing to see the defense coming together and playing. That'll do well for us as we go in against Arkansas, who's going to really run the ball against us. If we can continue to maintain our defensive intensity and maintain that solid defensive front seven, we have a good opportunity to play a good game next week by what we were able to learn against this New Mexico State team. The second thing that was good out of it was the offensive production. The points scoring 49 points in the first half, which is huge. And you're resting your starters thereafter, big as well. You know, Bryce Young got off to a huge start. He was 21 for 23, breaking his own efficiency rating that he set against Southern Miss. He breaks his own record to have the highest passer efficiency rating for 270 yards and 5 touchdowns. And he only played one half and one series in the second half. So Bryce Young, see the offense come out and be so consistently good in the first half was really a big plus. The third thing that was good in this was we had some different, due to some injuries on the offensive line, we had some different people in different positions. And then in the second half, we got to see a lot of other linemen play. And so I think that'll go a long way to help the coaches in determining who are going to be our best 5 linemen going forward once we have people coming back from injuries and we have opportunity to pick and choose who to use. So I think that was good. But there's always can be a downside to playing one of these teams, and we saw that in this game. That is players being lost to injury. And in this game, there were 2 players that had significant injuries they're pretty much lost for the rest of the year. Hearing today that JoJo Earl, his injury was not as serious as thought, so he will not have to have surgery, but he's going to be out at least a week, maybe 2 weeks or more, recuperating with his knee. And then Roydell Williams, our running back, that was injured after 1 play in this game, he went out with a knee injury that is going to require surgery, and I believe he'll be lost for the rest of the year. So that's the downside of having these games, is getting injured, and you need to come out of it healthy, and we did not. We also had some other players nicked up in this game, like DeMarco Helms. He had a bruised thigh, and then Emil Achior was nicked up as well. Both of those should be able to be back and ready for the next game. It looks like Darren Dallacourt is going to be coming back for the next game and practicing as well. Overall, we had some positive things come out of this game, but the injuries definitely was the worst thing to come out of this game, and especially to the running back core. That leaves us now with only 2 scholarship running backs. When you review this game against New Mexico State, it leaves us with Brian Robinson, and he had 9 carries in this game for 99 yards, and then Trey Sanders will be his backup going forward. He had 12 carries for 66 yards. Behind them are 2 players that we got ready just for emergency purposes, and that is Christian Leary, who plays wide receiver, and DeMoy Kennedy, who plays linebacker. Those 2 may have to be more involved in going forward, and Coach Saban said again today that he may have to get another running back already, since we've lost so many scholarship players to injury this year in the running back position. So overall, a lot of good came out of the game against New Mexico State. The only bad is the injury. So Alabama wins 59-3 against New Mexico State, and looking forward to the next challenge ahead. Well, here in the second segment, we're going to talk about our players of the game in the New Mexico State game. Now, on offense, we got to start with Bryce Young. As I said earlier, Bryce Young was 21-23 for 270 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first half alone. He only played 1 series in the second half, but 21-23 set the record for the all-time efficiency that Bryce Young had set against Southern Miss earlier in the year. He breaks that record against New Mexico State for going 21-23 for 270 yards and 5 touchdowns, and just had a stellar performance while he was in there. He got us in the right plays, used his legs to extend plays, and it was just overall a really great day for Bryce Young. So he's one of my offensive players of the game. My other offensive players of the game is Jameson Williams. Just at the wideout, goes over 1,000 yards for the season. He has 6 receptions for 158 yards, averaging 26.3 yards a catch, and 3 touchdowns, and playing most of the first half only. So Jameson Williams is a breakout in this game. Transfer from Ohio State. He can really take the top off the defense, really burn you deep, good hands, and good route running as well. So today I think he was named a semifinalist for the Blitnikoff Award. So really did himself good in transferring to the University of Alabama, and really coming on strong for us in that wide receiver position. So on offense, my players of the game are Bryce Young and Jameson Williams. On defense, just can put this name in there as a repeat every week, because Will Anderson Jr. is my first defensive player of the game, and he does a great job playing mostly on the outside edge. He played some on the line, played mostly on the outside edge. He covered some. But he had 2 sacks in this game to add to his league-leading sack total, and played a really good game. When he wasn't sacking the quarterback, he was occupying 2 blockers for someone else to sack the quarterback. So it was just an awesome day. His being able to occupy blockers allowed Henry To'oTo'o, Drew Sanders, and LeBron Ray all to get a sack in this game. So Will Anderson Jr. is my first defensive player of the game. My other defensive player of the game is Jaylen Armour-Davis. I don't think we've given Jaylen Armour-Davis enough credit this year. Number 5 coming in and doing that corner opposite Josh Jobe. He's really played really good. He had 6 tackles in this game. He had some pass breakups. And New Mexico State was a team that loved to throw the ball. And his guy was covered most of the day and didn't get a lot of targets, but did a really good job. So my other defensive player of the game is Jaylen Armour-Davis. So on offense, Bryce Young and Jameson Williams, and on defense, Will Anderson Jr. and Jaylen Armour-Davis. Well, that brings us to the third and final segment of the game. Let me remind you again, you're listening to the DC Capstone Report, and we appreciate you tuning in. Also, go and look at Lance's other sites, RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. Got some great Alabama football content on there right now. As we get ready for this next game, here we're going to preview the game against the Arkansas Razorbacks. The Arkansas Razorbacks come to town, and quite frankly, Arkansas has given Alabama some trouble before. They in games past, they've always played us tough, even in years when they weren't very good. But this year, Sam Pittman has done an excellent job in his second year of getting this Arkansas team ready to play. They played a good schedule this year, have been in most of the games. Most of each game they played, they've had a good opportunity to win and just bring a team that's really loaded on defense with some good players, and on offense with a good, strong, tall quarterback that can really throw the ball. And they can really have a great running game with some big old linemen up front to push people around. So Alabama's going to have their hands full when they kick off here in Bryant-Denny Stadium this coming Saturday. So when Arkansas comes to town, what does Alabama need to do to win this ball game? Well, first of all, we need to make plays in the running game, even though we're going to be depleted without Roydell Williams. We got to find a way for Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders to really have a dual running threat in this game so that both of them can get enough touches and keep themselves fresh in this game and make our running game exert itself in this game so that we can set up our play action passing. I look for us to do that. I look for us to get some good push on our offensive line. I think it's better in gelling, do a better job in this game. So I look for our running game to get on track against an SEC opponent like Arkansas. And it won't be a pushover. They've got some good players, but I think we're going to have a good rushing attack going in this game. What's that going to do? Well, that rushing game is going to set up two things. One, our play action passing and our RPOs. One thing that I think we saw our team do that was a point of emphasis last week was to have a more up-tempo style and keep the ball running and doing the RPOs in this game. And I think that was a sign of things to come. I think we play better when we're up tempo. I think we play better when we're running RPOs and have a string of RPOs in the game plan. And Bryce Young has opportunity to pull the ball and throw the ball to some open receivers running free. So look for the RPO game to come back again this week with us to kind of pick up the pace a little bit. Now, against Arkansas is going to try to push the pace too, and they're going to try to get as many plays as they can. Kendall Briles will call a game to try to push it and get it momentum moving. The good thing, the thing we need to do on defense is to get off the field on third down. That's important. Get off the field on third down. When we have opportunities to get them in a good situation on third down, we need to get off the field on third down. Will Anderson needs to turn loose on this quarterback. If we can pressure the quarterback, I believe the quarterback will make some mistakes in this game. We might possibly get a turnover in the passing game. But he's tall. He can stand in the pocket and he can take some hits. But we got to put pressure on him. And I believe Will Anderson Jr. will do that along with Dallas Turner and also Fendarian Mathis and pushing the line. I believe we could be able to scheme them with some blitzes. I think they're a little susceptible with their run blocking scheme to the pass, and their pass blocking is just not as good as their run blocking. They do a great job of blocking for the run, and they run the ball really effectively. But I think if we can stop the run and put them in obvious passing situations, then we're going to have an opportunity to scheme them a little bit with some blitz packages that'll get them taken care of down the road. So I look for Alabama to come out in this game and really pressure. Put the pressure on them defensively, and also try to catch the momentum early on in this game, and keep the ball in our favor and run it fast enough to get those RPOs working for us in this game. If we do that and limit our turnovers and limit our mistakes, I think that we're going to be able to come out of this game with a big victory. I see Alabama winning this game at the final score of 48-17. That's Alabama 48, Arkansas 17. Well, that's the DC Capstone Report this week. Thank you all for tuning in. Look forward to be back here next week after this game, after another Alabama victory in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Thanks. Y'all have a great week, and roll Tide.